That is a 64-degree CBX Full Face Wedge. I've got 13 clubs in my bag, so I have room for one more. Shall I put a 64-degree wedge in my bag? With my short game, I just can't see how there will ever be any kind of problem with that. Morning, Matthew.
Hello.
Should I have a 64-degree wedge in my golf bag?
No.
You don't think I should? I'm going to test it today. I'm interested to see what I can or can't do with this thing. You don't think I should have one, do you?
I don't know. I think they're a little silly.
I think if anyone can make this club look silly, I'm up for that task.
I'm looking forward to you using it.
I've only got 13 clubs in my bag, so in theory I have a gap. So to leave that gap would be silly in theory. Why have a gap? I might as well put something in if I use it once in a year. Do you know what I mean? That's what my brain's thinking. Are you not thinking that?
I hear you, but like, battle golf is a thing, you know?
I see what you mean. Another driver, you say?
Like, yeah, like why would you not go Strixon and XXEO drivers? And like, we all know who uses a 64, and it's Phil Mickelson.
Well,
and he used to use two drivers as well.
That's a good point. Let's test it.
50 yards. I hope I don't hit it over this screen. Could be embarrassing.
So for this club, I feel like the 64, I do have to give it a whack for 50 yards. 57, so slightly too far. Be interesting to see if it's a drop off or a gain in spin. That went high. 56. That popped. For a low spinner then, 45. The only advantage with a kind of club like this, I feel a little bit like I can be quite aggressive. So if you do have a few wobbly knees, that extra aggression might be what you want. 56, that's over the flag. Let's do one more and then we'll compare it up to my 58. And obviously I could chuck them loads higher if I wanted to, so I do know there's another kind of element to what I could get out of this. It's more when I'm playing it stock, I want to know the differences. I definitely know this is going to give me, in my opinion, a lot more launch. Not sure on the spin, I don't think particularly much, but we can have a look. Much more on the high launch and the land angle advantages, but how much over that to 58? Right, 58, 50 yards. You know, it does, obviously it is, what, 6 yards of loft. It does feel like an extra swing, extra club. This one's much more of a tap. You know, half, 3/4 shot compared to the 64 feels like you are giving it a whack. That's a more pop up in the air one. That's quite a comparable kind of sets of shots there. Right, let's do some tech on this wedge. So it's high toe. So we saw this from Callaway first, then TaylorMade, and now obviously Cleveland are having a go at the same thing. Let's remember basically the first one, the Callaway one, was a copy of the Ping Eye 2 Phil Mickelson used to play around his garden wedge. So it seems like everyone wants to bring out this wedge. Now I've used high toe before, and to be honest with you, there are advantages. We've played plenty of shots in rough where you hit it out the top, a little bit more meat there and some grooves there because you're in thick rough, and it gives you possibly a slight advantage when you hit it higher on the face. When I say slight advantage, I use that term loosely because there is no real advantages in this game. Unfortunately, it's all up to us. But on the odd occasion, it might show some benefits where on others, it takes them away. So this one's got the Rotex Full Face. So Cleveland's tall zip grooves that you see on other clubs. So they're trying to maximize the surface of this face to emphasize as much spin as possible. I've done plenty of testing on wedges, and if you watch my reviews, spin is so hard to control on the wedge. Again, the biggest defining factor is going to be where you strike and what gets stuck between you and the ball, the grooves and all the milling and everything. It's very limited what it can actually do. This is also what they call a half cavity design, so cavity more at the bottom here, which is allowing them to put the CG exactly in the spot where you want to be trying to hit it on the face, is what Cleveland is saying. We also see the low C-shaped sole, so relief heel and toe, which is allowing you to actually open clubs up and not get leading edges quite so aggressively off the ground. So they've got the sole that's really going to help you hopefully manipulate this. How much you want to open up a 64? How much does anyone want me to open up a 64? Oh, this could be entertaining. Right, 9 yards. What advantages are we going to see here, if any? And how bad am I going to hit these chips? So I'm trying to chuck this right up by the hole with this club. So I really think when we boil this down, that'll be interesting. I just feel if you're confident enough to play this, land and stop is there. So that was a real nip spin, that one. Just as duff and run as anything I can hit. And there's your danger, isn't it? You know, trying something that I'm not good enough to do anymore and lots aren't, maybe. Because you definitely feel like a little run. I mean, I would be putting this in real life. But does it give you that extra option when you don't have an option? Went for a spinnier one there. Let's compare that up to my 58. So I definitely feel to have any competition with that, I'm having to manipulate the face considerably more. Again, in this situation, I wouldn't be using this, but there will be situations where I do need it to land and just completely stop. I mean, I can visually see the land angle is different. I mean, I'm gonna have to really work one. And then I've caught it very thin, but got lots of spin because of that strike. So this is definitely making me, in my opinion, work much harder to get any equivalent kind of results if we're talking about getting it to stop in the shortest time. Because of that land angle, it feels more than anything else. I actually feel like this one might even spin more. I'm not even watching the numbers. Again, I've just thrown that too far. Do you want to look at the numbers I've captured here, Matthew?
Yeah, let's see them.
It's interesting. So here's the 9-yard shot to kick us off. I hit a 9 and a 50-yard shot. So you're seeing everything that you would kind of expect. Apart from, so you're seeing a bit short on yardage. Trying to hit 9 yards, I carried it 6 with the 64. I carried it 8 with the 58. So arguably this is going a yard or two past, and this is a yard or two short.
Yeah.
Launching at 41 compared to 36, so as you'd expect, it's launching up in the air more, and it is spinning a bit more.
Descent angle is
and descent angle
quite
is
a bit more as
yes,
well,
I mean,
it?
I would see that descent angle as a bit of a weapon for me. Like, that's giving me an advantage of trying to get, it's spinning a fraction more with more descent, and it's descent that's going to override, I think, that when we start talking these numbers. So descent over spin. I think for someone who's a bit scared to open up the club, possibly, that's like, I'm playing these the same way, in effect. So I hit the shots the same way. Now, what's scary though, and I think this is the problem with 64s, is because the strike is so oblique. Look at the jumping in spin. So 8.2 down to 2,000.
8.3, yeah, you're
6,100
difference.
Yeah, 6,300 difference. Massive jump.
That is a lot, isn't it?
Yeah. And
it's like, it must be, I guess you have got strike, but like looking at the launch there,
it's a popper.
High on the face.
It's a high popper. My spins aren't that tight at the best of times because my strike varies so much, but it's tighter in the 58, like loads tighter. There are advantages, 47, and then there are scary moments as well, which is what I'm kind of feeling like might happen with this club. Is it a little bit of a S or bust? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm like, with the variation on that spin straight off, like, you're adding an element of doubt into what the outcome's going to be straight away.
Yeah.
And if you're not good at striking as well, like,
it's a roulette, isn't
it? You hitting it, the chances of you getting it right at that one time that you're going to need it in a month.
Yeah. Here you go then. So here's the 64 and the 58. This time we're hitting a 50-yard shot. So I took it to more of a swing. I carried it 50 yards and it would have rolled on a yard and sometimes stopped on average with the 64. 45 carry average with the 58. That's going to roll on a yard or two because it's descending at 35 compared to 38. So again, the descent angle is winning in the 64. But both of these, I would see them as being within a yard of each other from the target with descents to carries. Spin was more with the 64. So again, it gives me this more descent, more spin. Is that a weapon that I could call on every now and then? Bearing in mind, I've got this spare club. But again, we had interesting jumps. 9.4 down to 5.5. 400 revs is 4,000 revs. Sorry,
4,000 revs. Yeah, 4,000.
Jumping.
And you're like 2,200 on that one.
And in the 58, it's half. So the repeatability of the 58 is just so much more, isn't it? So I think there again, and then look at the launches are interesting. Much closer in the launches when you got to the 50 degree, 28 to 27. But that oblique strike again, that extra loft is just, it's adding such variations. Look at the peak heights as well, from 14 down to 6, where this is 9 or 10 to 6. The variables become huge, don't they?
Yeah, I like, with the strike aspect of with a 64, you just have to be good with it.
Yeah.
You can't do what you do.
So here you go. Here's an interesting point then that I found with the 64, right? Phil Mickelson is rumoured to have made that first 64 that Callaway made was a copy in effect of his Ping Eye 2. He used to chip around as a kid with it. He had a synthetic green in his garden, as I understand. I might be wrong, post comments, but that's what I understand.
I've got one behind me, actually.
Yeah, one of those. When I chip with the 64 in my garden, it gives me a lot more options of play because of launch and land, because obviously space is so confined. You can totally, I personally am out there thinking, if you give me a 48 degree wedge and ask me to go and chip in my garden, I'm chipping for about 5 minutes. It's just chip and run. There's not much I can do. I mean, obviously you could really start funking it and get silly, but I'm scared I'm going to hit something. Where you give me a 64, I can keep it low, I can chip it high, I can chip it medium. It does, in my garden, give me a lot more options, and that's from pretty tight lies. I'm big enough and ugly enough to realise that when I get on the golf course, this club is going to give me, it shrinks it down, because obviously my garden's tiny, the golf courses are huge, so it has the reverse effect. I think the 64 just starts becoming verging on pointless.
I can't wait to see it on the course.
Well, with only 13 clubs in my bag, I want to put it in for the fun of it, and I know, or I get the feeling that this club isn't going to stay in my bag. It's like it'll go in for the fun, and then might end up in a pond somewhere or something.
Yeah, snapped.
And I try to chip 9 yards and it goes 4 into the lake in front of me when I was 2 up with 2 to play, and I could have just hit my 52 on the back and 2 putted, but I went for the Phil Mickelson crazy. So should amateurs really be playing this club? Should people be playing this club? Because lots of people post love. When I posted pictures of this, there was love about this club. There was a lot of love.
Like the way I generally teach short game, I start people off by a basic chip.
Yeah.
And then to change launch angles and descent angles and the amount the ball runs, I just make them change club and use that same technique. So I think a 64, if you're doing that sort of way of short game, would be a good idea. But if you go, once you're good at that, you want to get more advanced, you start twisting the faces, you start closing the faces, opening it, changing all the things up, and get really good that way, then I think, well, I can do everything with a 58 or a 60.
Yeah.
So
well, here
what is now the point?
Yeah, well, here you go. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that?
Yeah, no to a 64.
So it's basically saying 64. It's tight though. It's 63 no and 37 yes. And I kind of would agree with that. And it depends. Like if anyone was to say to me, should I put a 64 in my garden for chipping? I would say, yeah, it's brilliant fun. It teaches you some aggression skills. Like it is allowing me to go out there and make quite aggressive swings, knowing it's just going to pop most of the time. I do love the look. I like the high toe. I always liked it. When I had a Callaway one, I used one and I liked it. I think the 64 is silly, and really my 58 does enough. But I think it's going in. It's got to go in for at least a few rounds, just for the fun of it, innit? Because you know, it's that situation. It's tucked pin, 45, 60 yards out, little bit of a back bank, and you're doing the Hollywood shot, zooming in, soaring it back. And I just think, for me, who makes dumb golf videos, that's just worth it. Like, we should be allowed 15 clubs on the Muppet Tour, so we both got one in.
Yeah, shall we?
Let's go and play a 600 yard par 5 with our 64 degrees. So yeah, I would say for most amateurs, I would say it's dangerous and silly, and you're going to get what I get, which is massive variations. But there's a place. There is a place. It's just a small little place, and you can actually find that place in lots of other places if you look hard enough, I think, can't you?
Yeah.
Thanks,
absolutely.
Matt. Didn't know I didn't realise you'd moved into the Callaway warehouse for your quarantine.
Callaway headquarters, bruh. Yeah.
I've moved
in.
Alright, I'm gonna say goodbye now. You ruined this video with that there, you know that, don't you? In that comment section down below, let me know, would you use a 64 or not? I'd love to hear. I'm going to give it a go. I don't think it's an answer at all, but I think I can have a lot of fun with it. That's really all I'm playing for, is more fun. Down there, let's hear what you got to say.